10 січня.
It's January 10, Ukraine Media Center starts its operation. My name is Svetlana Cheparenko, and now we will be talking about the situation in the nuclear sector of Ukraine. Joining us in the studio is Mr. Oleh Korikov, head of the State Nuclear Regulatory Inspectorate of Ukraine, Chief State Inspector for Nuclear Radiation Safety of Ukraine. Good morning, Mr. Oleh. Good morning. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. The microphone, please. Well, first of all, I would like to ask you about the current situation in the nuclear energy sector of Ukraine. What are the consequences of the most recent enemy strikes? To what extent could they destabilize the system, or is it working in a stable manner? Well, look, currently all of the 9 reactors that are located in the territory under Ukrainian control are operated within technical schedules, and basically I could say that the safety condition is in compliance with the requirements. Well, we may say that Ukraine is a transparent country in this sense. There are relevant international experts staying in Ukraine who are involved in handing over the information about the condition of Ukrainian nuclear energy sector to the international institutions. And currently we have heat in the homes of Ukrainians thanks to the operation of Ukrainian nuclear power plants in the territory under Ukrainian control in compliance with the technical requirements. So I would like to mention also about the use of nuclear energy in the year 2024. As it's known, us as Ukraine, we've acquired the membership in the management board of IAEA back in 2023, and in 2024 we were able to fully exercise our membership in the management board of the IAEA. Management board is the management body, the second management body along with the General Conference, and Ukrainian delegation during the year 2024 was taking part in 4 meetings of the management board, and during one of those meetings that was gathered upon Ukrainian initiative on the 12th of December, it was dedicated to the shelling of critical power infrastructure of Ukraine by Russian terrorists, and it allowed us as Ukraine to influence on the resolutions of the organization, and in some cases I would even say to identify the agenda for IAEA. The topic of Ukraine remained one of the key topics during other meetings of other international organizations, including European Regulatory Group, International Regulatory Association of Nuclear Safety, G7, etc. Well, it allowed us to communicate to them the real condition, the real state of affairs in the nuclear sector of Ukraine, including Zaporizhia Nuclear Power Plant, temporarily occupied by Russian terrorists. Our country was visited by the heads of the regulatory authorities of the leading nuclear energy operating countries, including United Kingdom, Finland, Norway. Well, such visits, they evidence the support of Ukraine, and they provide us with the opportunity of face-to-face communication of the state of affairs and the effects the war is having on nuclear sector of Ukraine, and thus to acquire necessary aid needed for proper operation of the nuclear reactors from our international partners. Also, we stay in dialogue with other partners of ours, such as Sweden, Czech Republic, Finland, France, Austria, Australia, United States, Poland, Canada, and others. intense international activity, foreign affairs activity, allowed us to create a consensus in support of Ukraine. The matter of temporary occupation of Zaporizhia Nuclear Power Plant and the threat to the nuclear safety is always in focus when Ukraine is invited to any event, any meeting, and we are being given the floor to communicate it. We were able to ensure continuous international monitoring by our nuclear power plants, and as you may be aware, all of the Ukrainian nuclear power plants, including Chernobyl power plant and temporarily occupied Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, are attended by the representatives of IAEA, by their monitoring missions, whose key goal is to monitor the nuclear safety condition in all of the reactors. So the representatives of IAEA staying in Ukraine along with our personnel, and also they gather the data about the aid which is necessary to be provided to Ukrainian licensees. Also, in compliance with the resolutions of the President of Ukraine, Minister of Energy of Ukraine, we've ensured the expansion of international IAEA monitoring to electric substations, on operation of which the transportation of energy depends. Those who ensure the needs of nuclear power plants in electricity, just like it happens in Zaporizhia nuclear power plant currently. So within this period, until the end of the year 2024, there were 3 visits of the representatives of IAEA to nuclear power plant, with simultaneous documenting of the effects of war on those nuclear power plants. For example, the representatives of IAEA were able to document the presence of residues of cluster munitions in the territories of nuclear power plants. That's a documented fact, which evidences, for another time, it does evidence the terroristic activities of Russia. And the work is underway to make sure that any cooperation with the aggressor becomes toxic, and ensure the way to the establishment of just peace. What's also important is that IAEA, the mission of IAEA, that aims to support the safety of ionizing radiation sources. So it's not only about nuclear power plants, but more of healthcare facilities or other businesses that use the sources of ionizing radiation are being monitored. Also, the monitoring of medical condition of personnel is exercised by IAEA mission in nuclear power plants of Ukraine. Also, the monitoring mission of IAEA is prepared to the Kharkiv Physical and Technical University that uses a small nuclear reactor. So basically, the expanded monitoring and the presence of international organizations in Ukraine evidences the international support and our transparency, and also helps to debunk all of the accusations, all of the Russian narratives. In continuation of this topic, well, I see a lot of work was done to ensure the presence of IAEA representatives of Ukraine. How did it influence the safety situation, the security situation, and the shelling of the nuclear power facilities, basically? Well, you know, right after one of the meetings of the management board of IAEA on the 12th of December, as we were coming back on the 13th of December, yet another time our power grid was attacked. So first of all, we demonstrate who is really the aggressor, who is the terrorist, if someone still doesn't understand it. And when there is a voting in the management board and there is a resolution to be approved that the shelling impacts negatively the condition of the nuclear power grid, and Russia and China vote against, well, it demonstrates that the aggressor doesn't comply with the international security and safety principles. They take quite a different, the opposite position, and it helps us to work with the partners and to ensure the sentiment in the society that sanctions should be imposed against Russia, that any cooperation is toxic, and it all becomes a part of our efforts to establish the just peace as soon as possible. Well, you've mentioned that the Ukrainians have electricity supply, heat supply, which is quite a good, quite demonstrative result of work. We also want to thank the security and defense forces who stand on defense of the nuclear energy facilities. But what else was done to ensure proper protection of the nuclear sector facilities, nuclear power plants? Well, thank you for your question. From the perspective of the nuclear safety and security and safety of supplies and security in terms of uninterrupted supplies, well, a lot was done. We're not procuring any goods, works, and services from Russian Federation, from the aggressor, and it demonstrates Ukrainian leadership in this area, included as well as our work on implementation of alternative nuclear fuel in Ukrainian nuclear power plants. So during the last year, I was in fact reporting that we started importing Westinghouse fuel, a fuel manufactured by a friendly manufacturer for Rivne nuclear power plant for its second reactor, and by now the Westinghouse fuel is working on the first reactor as well, and no violations of safe operation was observed and documented. Well, the Ukrainian TV-1000 reactors use the American fuel manufactured by friendly manufacturer Westinghouse, and today we are an example for friendly countries. There are 19 Soviet-designed nuclear reactors all over Ukraine in 5 European countries, and currently we've achieved significant progress. 3 out of 5 countries, Finland, Bulgaria, and Czech Republic, are currently using the nuclear fuel manufactured by Westinghouse, and 2 more countries, Slovakia and Hungary, signed relevant contracts, and they're about to start non-Russian designed fuel shortly. So in fact, Ukraine destroyed Russian monopoly in the area of supply of nuclear fuel for Soviet-era designed nuclear reactors, and now the European countries started more intense work in this area. So Russia is losing more markets, losing more money, losing more influence, and this is exactly what we're striving to. I would answer to a question like this. Well, I would like to ask you also about the Zaporizhia Nuclear Power Plant. What is the security situation over there? Has it changed since our most recent conversation? Because the IAEA recently mentioned an explosion in Zaporizhia Nuclear Power Plant facilities. Well, Zaporizhia Nuclear Power Plant, you know, the words that come up to my mind is disarray and degradation. Well, the operation is exercised not in a safe and secure way, but rather in compliance with all of the commands from Moscow. Well, and sometimes such a type of operation may achieve a point of no return. There are still occupiers in the territory of Zaporizhia Nuclear Power Plant that exercise blackmailing and violating all of the rules of safety and security in Zaporizhia Nuclear Power Plant. And just like I've reported earlier, in fact, there is no legitimate personnel stationed in Zaporizhia Nuclear Power Plant, and that's the fact that negatively influences the operation of a nuclear equipment in Zaporizhia Nuclear Power Plant. And during the year 2024, the territory of Zaporizhia Nuclear Power Plant was highly militarized. In all of the technical facilities, there are Russian military personnel, materiel, explosives, ammunition. IAEA are not being provided the full access to the Zaporizhia Nuclear Power Plant facilities to evaluate the safety and security degree. The information that is being communicated is of fragmentary nature, and we had a couple of electricity supply interruption events. We cannot monitor the radiation safety situation online because the system was disconnected by the occupiers. There was an operational event. One of the cooling towers was burnt. The occupiers are operating those facilities in surprising ways, I would say. The nuclear power plant itself is being used as a military base, and respectively, we try to communicate this information to our foreign partners. The only positive thing I can mention is that all of the reactors are in the cool idle mode, which was the result of joint efforts of the international partners, operating organizations, and State Nuclear Regulatory Inspectorate of Ukraine, and everybody who adheres to this nuclear safety principles and standards, which allows to decrease electricity consumption, water consumption, and to continue maintaining the equipment in operating mode that doesn't pose a critical threat to international community. And the only way to bring back safety and security to Zaporizhia Nuclear Power Plant is that the militarization and return of the Zaporizhia Nuclear Power Plant under the control of Ukrainian institutions responsible for its proper operation. And how to bring back safety, how to act after the Zaporizhia Nuclear Power Plant is being returned under Ukrainian control is being currently discussed by the task force that is working on this issue. upon the initiative of President Zelensky, nuclear safety of Ukraine, and in cooperation with Finland, Slovakia, France, Japan, we are negotiating this issue. It's a really important topic and we're preparing for it. Well, the finalization of construction of Khmelnytsk nuclear power plant is getting more attention. More challenges that Ukraine is about to face are being discussed. So what is the real plan for finalization of the construction? Thank you very much for the question. Well, it's more of a question to the Ministry of Energy, I would say, and me as a head of the Inspectorate. I can say that we were studying the feasibility study documents on the construction of reactors 3 and 4. We've agreed upon them. We were reviewing the draft law for construction of the reactors 3 and 4 of Khmelnytsk nuclear power plant. We've approved the plans, and for what I know, the law was already reviewed by the relevant parliamentary committee, and it's been prepared for the discussion in the parliament, talking about the reactors 5 and 6. The feasibility study was finalized. We've already reviewed it. We've studied the document, and now we are at the phase of finalization of expert remarks that were given to the study, and we are about to proceed to the second review of the document with other involved bodies. We have to review the effect on the environment. So basically the work is underway, and we expect to see more resolutions at the institutional levels, and we are ready to exercise the regulatory support of the construction. Okay, so let's continue about the plans. When it comes to the cooperation with IAEA, are we going to intensify our cooperation with IAEA, and is it going to become more efficient? Well, we have quite close contacts with IAEA. For example, the head of IAEA was visiting Ukraine personally a couple of times just last year. We expect yet another visit shortly of the Director General of IAEA, Mr. Rafael Mariano Grossi, to Ukraine, and Ukraine as a member of the management board is fully represented and fully influences the agenda of these organizations. So with the help of this membership, we've become quite well, we've established permanent contacts that I would say intensify the international support, and we have reasonable optimism that support for Ukraine is about to grow. I mean, that's a significant indicator. And talking about the regulations in Ukraine, do we expect to see some regulatory changes that can affect the operation of the nuclear energy sector? Well, a lot of work was done in the year 2024. I can report about two important decisions. First, the amendments to the rules of safe operation of the nuclear power plants came into effect. That's a fundamental document that sets forth the criteria for safe operation of the nuclear power plants. And the changes that were made are about to ensure the higher level of safety in course of operation of nuclear power plants, and those changes, they also ensure that only those projects for construction of nuclear power plants are approved in Ukraine that comply with the international safety and security rules and standards. So those changes are bringing us to the area of nuclearly neutral countries. I mean, in terms of the approaches that are being implemented, we can license even the technologies that were not previously operating in Ukraine, not Soviet or post-Soviet era, but a technology that was developed, say, in Europe or United States, and that's the first big thing. And yet another important thing is that as a part of implementation of European legislation, we've approved the provisions on the experts on nuclear safety. So in compliance with the law on Ukraine on use of nuclear energy and radiation safety, the amendments were made to the provisions about the experts on nuclear safety. So the experts are those who are going to consult the businesses and the individual and legal entities, government authorities on safety and security, on proper modes of operation of nuclear power facilities. And again, it will ensure the better radiation safety for the citizens of Ukraine. It will be clear who may become an expert in the area of radiation safety, which already, so to say, bans the activities of self-proclaimed experts, so to say. Oh, thank you very much for your question. Do we have any questions on the floor to our guest?
From Aftenposten, Norwegian newspaper. My name is Per Anders Johansen. Can you describe how important and what role the nuclear facilities in Ukraine play now that you see that Ukraine are provided with electricity despite all the Russian attacks lately trying to destroy the energy system of Ukraine? Can you give some more details about how important the nuclear facilities are?
Thank you.
Нічого, якщо я українською буду відповідати, хоча можна англійською.
Well, look, we have 4 nuclear power plants. We're supplying, like before the big war, we're supplying 60-65% of the electricity supplied to the market of Ukraine after the beginning of the big war and after the Zaporizhia Nuclear Power Plant ended up under Russian occupation. 3 of those nuclear power plants that are being currently operated ensure about 50-60% supply of the electricity to the Ukrainian power grid. So basically it's a significant share, and on top of nuclear power plants supplying electricity and heat to the satellite cities, they also contribute to the stability of the prices in the energy market. And just like all over the world, the nuclear energy is the pledge of electricity prices stability and it ensures that the volumes provided to the market can be provided at stable price in a long-term perspective. So basically, the nuclear sector ensures the safe operation of the power grid of Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Oleh. We were discussing the situation in the nuclear sector of Ukraine. Joining us was Mr. Oleh Korikov, the head of the State Nuclear Regulatory Inspectorate of Ukraine. Well, and Ukraine Media Center is going to continue next week. Thank you. Stay tuned. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes.